Because I'm such a fair and democratic YouTuber, I decided to let you all vote on what one of my next videos should be about. Looking at these results, it's quite obvious that the MTLB won. Regardless, today's video is going to be about the SU-25, because this ain't no democracy, man. I don't know what you expected. Voting here is as useless as in real life. Just kidding. As much as I love to be dictator, I am going to give you what you want to see. Therefore, today's video is going to be about the Soviet MTLB. So hello and welcome and enjoy this video. The MTLB was made by the Kharkov tractor plant to replace the older ATP and ATL vehicles. The Kharkov tractor plant is different from the more well-known Kharkov locomotive plant, which made tanks like the T-34, T-55 and T-64. The MTLB was designed to be a tactical tractor transporter to mainly move anti-tank guns and artillery. When it first came out, the newest anti-tank gun in the USSR was the 100mm T-12. The T-12 was light enough to be pulled by the older ATP, also known as artillery tractor, semi-armored, but the ATP wasn't big or strong enough to be the main vehicle for the T-12. Also, semi-armored tractors were becoming less useful because of the rise of tactical nuclear weapons. You know, nukes. And the Soviets at the time preferred to have NBC protection for when the apocalypse hits. Unlike the ATP, the ATL, which stands for Artillery Tractor Light, seemed to be working pretty well as the main vehicle for heavy mortars and 122mm howitzers. It was the Army's golden child until it wasn't, because after some years, cracks started appearing in the hull because of vibration from the suspension. Additionally, in 1959, it was discovered that the ATL couldn't be easily upgraded. Putting in a larger, more powerful engine made the hull too heavy at the front, which affected its mobility overall. To understand how the MTLB was better, let's look at the older ATP first. The ATP was created to replace the older T-20 Komsomolets and universal carrier vehicles, which were basic and common in the Red Army because of the Lend-Lease deliveries from Britain. These old vehicles were pretty simple, just an engine and drivetrain in a container with basic seating for the crew and passengers. They used simple steering and had designs more like civilian cars than military vehicles. Their hulls were built on a chassis with armor plates riveted to a frame, not a single-piece construction. The ATP was a more modern version of the T-20 and kept the same basic design but with some updates. It ditched the old chassis for a single-piece hull and used individually sprung road wheels instead of bogies. The MTLB, which came after the ATP, was a big change from this old design. The MTLB wasn't just a basic vehicle like the ATP and T-20. It had all necessary features for working in cold weather, areas with nuclear, biological or chemical contamination, and crossing water. It also had full armor protection, space for a full load of anti-tank gun ammo, and had also just about everything it needed to defend itself. This was a big improvement from the ATP, which was only semi-armored with an open top and had to tie down its few ammo crates on the outside like a redneck strapping groceries to a moped. The MTLB also had extra features like a system to wash the windshield, operate its pneumatic brakes and even control the brakes on a trailer if it was towing one. Since the ATP and ATL weren't performing well and didn't have much potential for improvement, the Army needed a new vehicle to replace both. Even though the ATP and ATL had just been introduced, the ATP in 1954 and the ATL in 1952, they needed something better. So they started working on a new vehicle called the MTL, which stands for Multi-Purpose Tractor Light, to take over the roles of both older vehicles. While the MTL was still being developed, the Army wanted the new vehicle to have basic protection, so they insisted on a fully closed armor hull with NBC protection. This led to the creation of the MTLB. The added armor made the vehicle heavier, but this was compensated by lowering the height. The MTL weighted 8.5 tons, while the MTLB weighted 9.7 tons. Therefore, the weight gain was pretty small, even though most features stayed the same. The only thing removed from the MTLB was the winch. The MTLB was tested in the usual places for the Soviet military, like the Arctic and Turkmenistan. to see how it handled cold and hot climates. Because, if it can survive there, it can probably survive anywhere. On December 25, 1964, after all testing was done, the MTLB was approved for use in the Soviet Army along with the MTL. The factory which was tasked with building the ATL started changing its production line to build the MTLB instead. This was difficult because they were used to making about 5 ATLs a day to meet demand. Making both the MTL and MTLB at the same time was too complicated, so they decided to focus only on the MTLB. The MTL's production info was sent to the Semipalatinsk machine building plant to improve their products. This meant the MTL was discontinued and the MTLB became the main focus. According to the 2014 version of the Science and Technology magazine, they officially started making the MTLB in 1966, but the first batch of vehicles was delivered in 1967. As all the vehicles were gradually retired, the demand for the MTLB in the Soviet Army during the early 1970s became so high that the factory couldn't keep up with the orders. This demand was not only from the Soviet Army but also from other Warsaw Pact countries. To meet this need, the Beta factories in Bulgaria and the Stalowa Wola steelworks plant in Poland were given licenses to produce the MTLB. Bulgaria started mass production in 1972 and Poland followed in 1976. The MTLB had a big cargo space, could carry a lot, had good weight balance, a strong engine, basic armor protection and worked well with other light and medium trucks. This made it a great base for building lightweight specialized military vehicles. Unlike other personnel carriers, which were only designed to carry people and a bit of gear, the MTLB could handle many modifications without losing its amphibious capability or needing upgrades to maintain the same performance. For example, the BRD-M2 could carry only up to 7 tons and still work properly. When they made the Strela 1 version, which was based on the BRD-M2, they had to remove some parts to keep it at 7 tons. But with the MTLB, they could add much heavier equipment. The Strela 10, based on the MTLB, weighed 12.3 tons and still met all the MTLB's specs. It did reach the 20% limit for buoyancy, which is needed for it to float safely, but it didn't exceed any other limits. After the MTLB, the MTLB-U variant was made to serve as a base for support vehicles like artillery control posts, mobile headquarters for air defense units, and radar stations. To fit all this equipment, it got a bigger hull that was 485mm taller and 800mm longer, with 7 pairs of road wheels and a layout similar to the original MTL. Although the MTLB is praised for its versatility today, it was mainly used as an artillery prime mover in the Soviet Army, even if that role wasn't always clearly defined. In the 1980s, it started being used in northern Russia as a cargo carrier for remote areas because it could handle tough terrain well. This made it indispensable in regions where roads were more of a suggestion than a reality. The MTLB-U, however, was specifically designed for various roads and did take on many different tasks in the Soviet Army. We won't be covering the MTLB-U today. It's similar to the basic MTLB, but also quite different. Also, its features can vary a lot depending on the specific modification needed. Generally, the MTLB-U is unarmed, but some versions that might face enemy attacks can have machine gun for self-defense. For example, the 1V13, 1V14 and 1V16 artillery fire control vehicles were equipped with a pintle-mounted machine gun. This setup allowed them to provide fire support while the batteries, howitzer or guns targeted enemy armored vehicles directly. Unlike the MTLB-U, the MTLB was only sometimes used as a base for specialized vehicles, with the Strela 10 and Sturm S being good examples. This was partly because there weren't many opportunities to use it in light tactical combat roles, and partly because the new BMP was better suited for specialized vehicles on the front line. The main variants of the MTLB in the Soviet Union were the MTLB-V, the MTLB with self-entrenchment equipment imported from Poland, MTLB-VM, modifications 32, 35 and 49. According to experts at Ukraine's Central Scientific Research Institute of Armament and Military Equipment, there are between 40,000 to 50,000 MTLB vehicles of different models being used by 42 different armed forces around the world. An article on the Russian Ministry of Defense website also says that over 44,000 MTLB and MTLBU vehicles were built, including ones for more than 24 foreign countries. Anyways, that was all I had to say for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you think I said anything that is not right, or you think I should have added any additional information to this video, please let me know in the comments and share your knowledge. Besides that, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video.
Попадание! Цель уничтожена.